typically that will be, of course, determined by what you wish was the case, right? These are your goals and plans, right? So you want something to happen. It either does or doesn't happen in the world. That intersection, right, and a conscious mind observing that is what generates an emotional response, right? So it's always going to involve cognition, right? So emotion here is being taken out of something that happens simply uncontrollably in your body, right? As if it's like a disease that you can't control, right? Or an organ that exists somewhere else, right? It's not something that's outside of our control, the emotions in a sense, right? But is instead a response to something that is outside of our control. So her idea here is that once we understand the complex intelligence of emotions, we will also have new reasons to value their work in other arenas, right? So by recognizing that emotions need not be at odds with rationality, right? That being emotional doesn't mean you're being irrational, then we open up the possibility that emotions can play a role in intellectual pursuits, right? And as we'll also see, especially highlighted next week, that's already the case, right? We already have emotions present in very high levels of, trying to seek knowledge, like in science, right? Emotions are always present in science. You don't see, people going after their PhD, going on to get getting their doctorate, going on to, spend years as interns, right? Or doing some sort of field training. And then, decades of research. You don't see someone dedicate that much of their life to something they're not passionate about, right? There's always going to be emotion involved in the pursuits of what we want to know. Okay, so it's not only going to recognize that emotion's already present in those fields, but will, in theory, actually create space for those emotions to play a role in a positive way, right? So even when they're present, we don't need to think of them as threatening knowledge in some way. That emotion can actually be used perhaps in conjunction with other traditional notions of other aspects of rationality, right? That they can work in tandem together and it can actually better help us achieve knowledge. And so I think the best way to understand this is perhaps maybe in terms of maybe the way you encounter art, right? Music, paintings, a piece of literature, poetry, right? Whatever it is. Imagine a piece of art that maybe at one point didn't speak to you, where you're like, kind of like, oh, okay, this kind of is cool, I guess. But then after you had some very emotionally powerful experience in your life, you were able to appreciate that art in a new way, right? That you quote unquote understood it better, right? That your understanding, your knowledge of that thing was actually deepened because of an emotional state that you had experienced, right? Or you can also understand this in the same way of empathy, right? That you are better able to understand the experience of others when there is an emotional connection that you can establish there, right, between you, that there is a feeling that goes along with your propositional attitudes that can actually help you know things better.